You can study in the morning, you can study at night. You can study outside by a campfire light. You can study with the rabbi.
Who is a Jew? Which rabbis do you accept for conversion? What rituals would you require for a conversion to be acceptable? Do you follow matrilineal descent or patrilineal descent? Who's a Jew? In America, this is a fascinating philosophical discussion, but it really remains in the realm of the philosophical. Because if you don't agree with this particular person's answer, you can always find another rabbi who has a different answer, a different community that accepts you based on what you believe the answer to the question of who is a Jew is. But in Israel, who is a Jew is not just a philosophical question. It's a question of, can I marry this person? Am I legally allowed to take advantage of the law of return? Who is a Jew? In Israel, this question is fundamental to the rights of thousands, millions of people. And just this past week, there were sweeping changes made to the answer to this question, who is a Jew? There was, last year, the Israeli government under Benjamin Netanyahu, one of their most praiseworthy efforts was a conversion initiative that would have made up to 30 courts, 30 religious courts available for conversion. Before that, there were only 4 courts in the entire state of Israel and 33 rabbis who were allowed to do conversions in Israel. This initiative would have broadened that to at least 30 new courts. But just this past week, that initiative was overturned. It was repealed, it was rescinded, it's never going to take effect. We're back to 4 courts that can convert Jews. And those courts are all ruled by the ultra-Orthodox. In fact, at the same time that this change was made, that this new initiative was repealed, power over even more of the religious life of Israel was given over to Shas, the ultra-Orthodox party. And then, just the other day, one of the leaders of Shas, the religious services minister, David Azulai, said that Reform Jews aren't really Jews. They need to return to Orthodox Judaism. Friends, whereas in America, we have the flexibility to find a rabbi that suits our needs, to find a community that agrees with our sensibilities, in Israel, there is only one religious law. And if you don't believe in that religious law, if you don't abide by it, if you don't appreciate or respect it, then you're out of luck. You can't get married in Israel. You can't convert in Israel. This is a problem. And Benjamin Netanyahu and the Israeli government has given now even more power to the ultra-Orthodox. When you talk about religion, Jewish religion in Israel, to an Israeli, a secular Israeli, all they know is ultra-Orthodox. I know this because I've taken many, many trips over the past decade to Israel. And every time I go, every time I lead a Shabbat service, every time I do any sort of Jewish ritual, the young Israelis that I meet with are just fascinated and wowed that Judaism can be anything other than a strict black hat expression of that Judaism. If we want Judaism to thrive in Israel, if we want a liberal Judaism to be able to exist and to thrive so that we, liberal Jews in America, have partners with whom to learn, with whom to study, with whom to build a Jewish life, then we cannot allow the Israeli government and the religious right to continue to answer the question of who is a Jew. That is not a question that they have the sole answer to. We have to be able to answer that question also. We as liberal Jews have to have the capacity to make religious laws for ourselves, for our communities, that define our marriages, that define our inclusion in the Jewish people. It doesn't surprise me that the religious right is so concerned about answering the question, who is a Jew? After all, communities are defined by who is a member and who is not a member. But the whole idea of membership in a community has been changing radically in the past decade. And it's not just communities of choice. It's communities of identity. Who am I as a person? The way we answer that question has changed dramatically. And so we can continue to allow one small group, one fringe group of the Jewish people answer that question, who is a Jew, for all of us, or we can stand up to the Israeli government and say, this is not okay. It is not okay to have one ultra-Orthodox group answer this question for all of us. We all have a voice in this discussion. We all have a place at the table. And until that's respected, until our voices are heard, then you're going to hear criticism from us. We're going to push back. Because I know, Benjamin Netanyahu, that you told us when you were running for prime minister again that the greatest fear, the greatest threat to Jewish survival was Iran. And they are a threat to our survival, but they are not the only threat. There is an equal threat living right within us. And that threat is giving the answers to these fundamental questions of who is a Jew to only one fringe group that does not speak for the majority. It's time for our voices to be heard as well. It's time for us to protect ourselves not only from the enemies without, but from the enemies within.
Let's talk some Torah. It's okay, as you will see, that we're bound to disagree. Don't have to see eye to eye to make the Torah come alive. Now that I've had my say, let's not waste the whole day.